Hello.
Hi, sorry, the growth call is still happening.
So's the other
And then masterminds is happening.
yeah.
So
Yep,
triple zooming today. How are you?
exactly. I am well. How are you?
I'm good. Did you have a nice weekend?
No complaints.
Good.
No complaints at all. How's motherhood treating you?
It's good.
Yeah.
I'm very blessed with a very good baby.
Don't let that lull you into having another one.
Oh, I'm not ready for that. Just getting used to this.
Yeah. How old now?
She will be 16 months. 17 months?
Yeah.
17
Nice.
months.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Yep.
That's great.
So, yeah, she's a lot of fun. A lot of
Yeah.
fun. She's outside
Very
playing.
cool. What's that?
She's outside playing with chalk right now.
Perfect. Perfect.
It's okay to leave her outside by herself, right?
That's not a problem. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know what our attendance is going to be like today, but it is going to be recorded, so
Yep.
we'll post it up on the Facebook channel. I am
Well,
going
tough.
to.
Yeah, it's and looking at the schedule to see if we could do a different time. I'm like, no.
Yeah, it was easier just to do it, and
Absolutely.
you know, I think they're going well. What do you think?
Yeah, yeah. I'm a fan. I like it. It's one of those, leadership I find. Hello, Mary. Hello, Sue. Leadership I find is one of those topics that most people have a recognition of needing to work on. But it's not always necessarily the thing they want to work on, right?
Right.
Like, oh, show me how to get more leads. Show me how to do this. Show me how to do that. Well, and at the base of it, it's like, well, like your level of leadership's got to impact all of it.
Right.
Can you attract people to you, whether it be clientele, whether it be better affiliate partners, better people on the team.
A paid course, not like I'm not saying the region collect the money. I'm saying go right to for like one of your kind of series, like you had, what is it, 0 to 60, and then you had one. Can we think about maybe doing one of the, like we actually have agents pay to be on it, because I think they show up more and be a little more valid. Can we talk about that after?
Yes, 0 to 60, me to we, both of those would be good.
Yeah,
and we're gonna have right, and then we're gonna looks like I'm gonna teach career visioning virtually in July.
Okay, great.
And 30, 60, 90.
Kristen Cole right now, so that.
Yeah, Kristen's got to come in mid-June. I'm going to kind of do this the whole leverage series in July. So
awesome.
Sue, Mary, don't want to keep you waiting, so we're just going to dive into it. Hopefully, some other people will join us. If not, this is recorded. Tell your friends. Jen, thank you so much for coordinating all this stuff. You're doing the part that I could never do.
Well, you're doing the hard lifting here. I just get it started. So I am going to come off screen here and work on my 3 other Zooms. So
that sounds good. Thanks so much, Jen.
Thank you.
Good morning, Katie. How are you? All right, here we go. So today we're talking about the extra plus in leadership, the extra plus in leadership. And what John talks about in that is attitude. Attitude really makes all of the difference. So John really talks about the attitude piece as a development of whatever it takes is a leader's attitude. Whatever it takes is a leader's attitude. If you ask me to identify the single most important aspect of a successful leader's attitude, it would be in processing a whatever it takes mindset. And then John lays out a bunch of steps for us on this. So step number 1, first off, we have to disown our helplessness. We have to disown our helplessness. I'll read a quick little thing. A victim is a person who suffers a loss because of the actions of others. A victim tends to believe that salvation comes only from the action of others. They have little choice but to whine and wait until something good happens. Living with someone who chooses to play the victim role is draining. Working in an organization where many people have chosen the victim role is absolutely depressing. So how do we develop this? So to be successful, leaders need to disown their helplessness and help the people on their team. And how do we go about doing that? First off, never make excuses, right? We never want to have excuses. 2, create a can-do environment. Are your affiliate partners can-do people? That's a real question I want you to ponder, right? Is the attorney you work with a person who's constantly looking to find solutions, or is it somebody who's constantly pointing out why something isn't going to work? Model a whatever it takes attitude. Provide training that enables team members to succeed. Make everyone feel valued, an important member of the team. Give real feedback and accept it as well, right? And then we really want to celebrate the successes of a team. Number 2 on attitude, and that's what we're talking about today, is attitude. And how do we develop a whatever it takes attitude? Take the bull by the horns. Teddy Roosevelt said this: "There is nothing brilliant nor outstanding about my record, except perhaps one thing. I do the things that I believe ought to be done. And when I make up my mind to do, then I act." Right? Pretty straightforward from Teddy Roosevelt. Number 3 on developing a do whatever it takes attitude for leadership. Enter the no whining zone. Every once in a while, somebody will be whining with me, and I'll just ask, like, "Hey, you want a little cheese with that wine?" We want to enter the no whining zone. How do we do that? We all experience times when we feel bad. Our attitude cannot stop our feelings, but it can keep our feelings from stopping us, right? Attitude should supersede how we feel. How do we do this? Well, really, it's a foundation in gratitude. And there's 3 big things on the gratitude front. First off, express gratitude independent of your feelings. "Hey, I'm feeling down." That's nice. What are you grateful for? Express gratitude for the small and ordinary things, right? Hey, you got to be locked up in your house for 2.5 months? I get it. What are you grateful for? Time with my family, right? Hey, I don't have to sit in traffic, right? And don't have it be made up stuff. Have it be, just take time to really connect with what are those pieces that I need to be grateful for, and make sure that that's where your heart's centered. Lastly, express gratitude, especially in the midst of adversity, especially in the midst of adversity. And this is where I think good leaders get separated from great leaders, right? It's pretty easy to be a good leader when things are going really well. It can be a real struggle to be a good leader when things are crumbling, right? So how do we spend time expressing gratitude in the midst of adversity? And John's pointing this out as one of the ways that we can help shape our attitude in this key to leadership. Number 4, put on a pair of shoes. Here's a little section on that. It is difficult to receive when your fists are clenched. It is impossible to embrace when your arms are crossed. It is difficult to see when your eyes are closed. It is hard to discover when your mind is made up. And a heart that has sealed itself off from giving has unknowingly sealed itself off from the ability to receive love. Some of the big challenges I see in the world today is that people are so adamantly convinced of what they think and are not open to hearing what the other side has to say or other perspectives. Are you showing up with hands clenched? Are you showing up with arms crossed? Are you willing to put on a new pair of shoes? Are you willing to challenge your old assumptions and perhaps partner with somebody who has different ideas than you do? One of the things that we see in our political system, good morning, David, is something, that almost all parties, all walks of life seem to point back to Lincoln as such a great president. And yet almost none of them duplicate what he did, which was get the people who thought completely different from him and bring them into his inner circle. He knew he needed the best thinkers, the smartest people, the people of influence, not necessarily everybody who agreed with him. So we all admire the man and we put him up on a pedestal, and yet we're not willing to do the simple thing that he does, which is, who are we surrounding ourselves with that think different than we do? Number 4, on developing an attitude in your leadership, a can-do attitude. Nurture your passion. Nurture your passion. The best career advice any person can receive is find your passion and follow it. Find your passion and follow it. Vision does not ignite growth. Passion does. Vision does not ignite growth. Passion does, right? Passion fuels vision, and vision is the focus of the passion. Leaders who are passionate about their call create vision, right? David's passionate about selling Mom's house, and that creates a vision for it, and then he begins to attract people to that vision. But without the passion, right? If it's a business plan without passion, it's never going to go anywhere. Right? I mean, there's been a lot of struggles through the years, David, of getting that thing off the ground, right? It's not been an endless boulevard of green lights.
Well, that's true, and I appreciate your follow your passion, because it sounds like a pass for me on changing gears, which I do. I've got the passion, but I don't have the formula exactly right yet. So I keep trying things, and when they don't, and the next new thing, I try, and I feel like I'm shifting around. We've had this conversation before. Brad was my coach for a while, and this COVID thing has made me do it again. But I'm feeling liberated about it this time. I'm feeling like because of the shift, I have to do something different. And a lot of the specifically, I don't want to go on too much here, but specifically, all of the places I used to call on, the senior centers and the assisted living places, are locked up.
Yeah.
So I can't just wait for them to open.
Can't be doing a pop by right now.
Right. So we're doing some things, and I apologize for sometimes hiding behind the screen. It just says this is a luxury for me to spend this time, so I have to sometimes timeshare.
No, I understand. I'm listening. No, and they're recorded for everybody. So love it. So number 6 in developing a can-do attitude, a get-it-done-at-all-costs attitude. Exceed expectations. Exceed expectations. Well, first off, we've got to understand what their expectations are. And a lot of people don't slow down long enough to ask what people's expectations are. So I think that's a huge point that John has in the book here, is we've got to understand their expectations before we have any hope of exceeding them. So I don't think many people push back on we want to exceed expectations, and yet I very rarely see people slow down long enough to find out what people's expectations are. So, and then the other thing too is we want to not rest on our past achievements, right? If we want to exceed expectations, we have to do better today than we ever did yesterday or the day before. So I just want you to keep those pieces in mind. And we want to make sure that we're setting high expectations for ourselves, right? Never be satisfied. Never be satisfied. And I think the words that John uses here are as good as any I've heard, which is you want to develop a sense of positive discontent. I want to be positive about the fact that I'm not happy where we are right now. We got to do better. No matter how successful the last quarter was, last year was, right? Where we're going needs to be a building block upon that, needs to continue to progress upon that. So having a positive discontent about where you're at in your business, I think is incredibly powerful. The future belongs to people who are dedicated to making their world, their teams, and themselves better. Their world, their teams, and themselves better, right? There was a while where I worked out with a guy on a rowing machine, and what I loved about those erg rowing machines was You could call up the workout you did yesterday and you could race against that. And I knew if just every day, if all I did was beat yesterday, I knew I was progressing. And so, this wasn't any professional coaching or anything like that. All I did was I would call up yesterday's exercise. I would sprint at the beginning, get a boat length ahead of myself, and then maintain that boat length. And every time I just beat yesterday Brad by a boat length. That's all I did. Just beat yesterday Brad by a boat length. And then over time, my time just gradually got better and better and better. How are you measuring against yourself and pushing yourself to reach towards a higher potential? Now, John then shifts gears and says, okay, so we've got this whatever it takes attitude. How do we put that into action? How do we take a whatever it takes attitude of a leader and put it into action? And there's a few steps to this. Step number one, we've got to test it. We've got to test it, which means we've got to challenge every assumption. Challenge every assumption. And I promise you, one of the best things you can do when it comes to challenging assumptions is have a coach, right? A coach is the one who's outside of the business looking at it from a totally different angle and can see assumptions that you're making that you didn't even know you were making as assumptions. I know I've got them in my business. I know that there are aspects of my business that where I wear blinders and I rely on the feedback of a coach to say, hey, have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? Is that really the best you guys can do? Or is that the best that can be done? So challenge every assumption. He also suggests always ask questions. And here's a few just to get you thinking, just to get you pondering on this. Is there a better way to do what we do? Is there a better way to do what we do? What can we learn from others who do what we do? Who can help us do better in what we do? Are the current numbers the best that we can do? Am I growing each year doing what I do? How can I become better to help my team become better? How can I become better to help my team become better, right? David, how can you continue to develop to help all of your affiliates and the people who are bought into Sell Mom's House, right? Because if you pour into you, that's going to have an impact on them, right? And then lastly in this, he says, benchmark against your potential, not your past, right? A lot of times I'll sit down and talk with a real estate agent or a business owner. We'll talk about the coming year, the coming quarter, and, hey, how much business do you want to do? And it's almost always a percentage increase based off of the last time's performance, last year's performance, last month's performance, something like that. The challenge with that is that it's never really a good measure against our potential, right? I'm not asking you, can you do 10% better than last month or last year? I'm asking you, if you pulled out all the stops, what could you do? Could you put 3 more houses under contract this week? I just got off a phone call with one of our coaching clients. She 4 offers in one day yesterday. 4 offers in the day. 2 are already under. She's still waiting to hear on the other 2. 4 in a day. That's not bad. That's not bad, right? Let's stitch a couple of those days together. What can be done? Not what's a subtle increase over what has been done. Another way to think about that, in Bold early on, they used to go, well, take whatever your goal is and multiply it times 2, right? So I want to do 2 a month. Great, now it's 4 a month. Or I want to sell 20 this year. Great, now what if you sold 40 this year? I think that's a good start. So if that's something that stretches your thinking, right? Gets that little bead of sweat coming down the side of your head, great. If it doesn't, then don't change the amount, change the time frame.
Can I jump in?
Yes, go.
And I would say also challenge your assumptions because methodology matters.
Mhm.
One thing I love about Kellaway is that I've really been reinvigorated over this whole pandemic thing. Is that with the training is, I for one don't believe in double the volume. You know, if you're already working hard, that
Mhm.
should be impossible. But you can challenge the assumptions and the methodologies, and that's where the one thing comes in. You know, and you focus on something and let something else go. In your
Mhm.
last session, you were talking about what's the one thing I could not do and no one would notice. So if you
Mm.
combine those two and you change methodologies, I'm
Mhm.
trying to increase demand gen right now and make the phone ring. So
Right.
separate apart from the marketing, the pull side. Anyway,
Right.
so I think that if you really want to do a quantum leap type of thing, you have to change your methodologies, or maybe adding a team member, for example, could be one simple way to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. If I know if I want to go from 20 houses a year to 20 houses a month,
Yeah.
it can't just be me, right?
Right.
There has to be other people involved. So then it becomes, who are those people? How do I hire them? All that kind of stuff. And I begin to look at my business very differently. I begin to look at my life very differently. Number two in this, how to put this whatever it takes attitude into action. John says, we've got to fail. We have to fail. Right? And most people are really good at avoiding failure. So we have to see failure as a constant companion of success. Or put another way, the price of success is failure. You are not going to get to success without failure, right? The people that list 100 homes a year are the ones who have probably failed at the listing appointment the most, if that makes sense, right? The people who are sitting on the stage at Carnegie Hall performing are the people who have probably practiced it so many times and gotten it wrong, right? We got to see success as colorfully varied, not monochromatic. The struggles we experience make the successes we achieve worthwhile. Without the pain, how would we be able to appreciate our progress? I'll put it another way. I lived in Southern California for several years. It's just my humble opinion, just one idiot from Maine, that's all. The summer in California was never as sweet as the summer in Maine. And it wasn't because it wasn't wonderful, because it was. It wasn't as sweet because there wasn't a winter before it. The difference between almost nice and really nice is so minute compared to, if I step outside in the wrong coat, I'm going to die, versus a beautiful summer day. And you just see people, they suck it up, they enjoy it, they love every minute of it because they know how precious it is. If we're not failing at some of our stuff in areas of our life, I don't think you're going to be able to enjoy the successes. And it's also where all the freaking learning happens. It's so rare that we wring out a bunch of knowledge from our successes, right? It's when we fall off the bike. It's when we fail that we go, well, I don't want to do that again. How do I go about it different? How do I approach it different? What do I need to learn here? Have a game plan for getting over failure, right? Plan for Murphy's Law to show up. You know it's going to show up. When all of this doesn't work, then what are we going to do, right? In fact, if you guys are familiar with the 1-3-5, right, which is a great kind of one-page business plan, when I first learned the 1-3-5, it was actually the 1-3-5-3-1. And the 1-3-5 is, what's the one priority? What's the one goal? 3 priorities, 5 strategies. And then the 3 was, what if the worst happened in each of my priorities? My plan was for this, and then a competitor did X. My plan was for this, and then a member of my team leaves. Whatever would be the biggest potential issue that could hamstring me in that area, I want to predetermine it while I'm building the business plan. And then already have in my back pocket What am I going to do then when that happens? What will I do then when that happens? Next, John talks to us about learn, right? So we just covered fail, we started with test, and now we're into learn. A friend once gave me the formula for becoming an overnight success. David, would that be helpful? Would you like to learn that?
Sure.
Yeah, okay, great. Here we go. Overnight success for everybody. He said the following: you show up every day, you work hard, you try new things, you fail, you improve, you grow, you face countless challenges and rejections, you doubt yourself, you want to quit, but you don't. And you do it all over again and again. Do this for months, years, decades, and you can too become an overnight success. You just got to do it.
You just got to keep at it.
You just got to keep at it. I had a great conversation with one of our agents up here in Maine the other day. You know, and we both acknowledged, you know, she's been in the business a little bit longer than I have. Both of our successes in real estate have come from the fact that we've just shown up and gotten to work every day. Just keep showing up. It really, you know, Einstein says, you know, it's such a huge percentage of the whole kit and caboodle, and it really is. The people that I look at that you know have failed to launch or were in for a while and left, they stopped showing up after a while. A mistake is only a failure if you don't learn from it, right? It's only a failure if we don't learn from it. Next, he says, after learn, it's improve. We've got to improve. Success often asks the question, what am I getting, as opposed to improvement? If our goal is improvement, we should be asking then, what am I becoming? What am I becoming? How am I different today than I was a week ago or a month ago? Who am I developing into? Leaders must challenge the process precisely because any system will unconsciously conspire to maintain the status quo and prevent change. Ugh. That means every system you put in place for your business will at some point become an anchor to keep you from being able to adjust and change in the future. Which means to some extent, we've got to be willing to not only set up those systems, but also completely tear them apart. Tear up the very systems that are working for us. David, you're muted if you're trying to.
Sorry.
Yep.
Yeah, I just was going to say momentum's a powerful thing, one way or the other.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you get positive momentum and you try it every day, as you were just saying, great. But if you, you know, the opposite's true, especially of systems that bog you down, time that drain your time.
If you've got systems, things like that are bogging you down, absolutely. A lack of business can be a showstopper too. Re-enter. And this I love this statement. Some of you have heard this before. I'm gonna read it again. Until I am committed, there is a hesitancy, a chance to draw back. But the moment I definitely commit myself, then God moves also, and a whole stream of events begin to erupt. All manner of unforeseen incidents, meetings, persons, material assistance that I could have never dreamed would come to my way, begin to flow toward me. The moment I make a commitment. Have you really decided the direction you're going in? Have you really decided? Right? To decide is to kill off all other options. Or are you waking up every morning still making that decision? Right? Should I brush my teeth today or should I not? Well, hopefully that decision was already made. It was made decades ago. Am I going to be honest in my relationships with my husband or my wife or my significant other? Hopefully you made that decision years ago. So when temptation comes, right, there's no decision to be made. I already made that decision. I'm not doing it. Have you made that decision in your business? Have you made a commitment of the direction you're going in? So when the enthusiasms, when you don't feel like doing it, you get up and do it anyway. Because that's your commitment and that's your attitude. It's a big difference there. Really big difference. So again, if we're going to develop this can-do attitude, this whatever it takes attitude, we're going to want to test it. We're going to be prepared for failure in it. We're actually going to look for failure in it. We've got to be willing to learn. Got to be willing to improve. And we have to re-enter with a level of commitment, a commitment that says, I'm closing the door to all other options. I'm running in this direction. That's where we're headed. And we're going to make it happen. Questions? What'd you hear on this one, David?
Well, I guess a lot of information about just sticking with it, you know, maintaining your momentum and your convictions. It takes a lot of conviction to survive a shift, I think.
Yeah.
A lot of conviction and at the same time some ingenuity. So I'm getting some positive reinforcement for sure. No particular takeaway other than you know, not accepting the status quo, you know, is acceptable. You know, you just, for me, it's all about experimenting and changing the mix, continuing with what's working and taking away something that's not.
Yeah, build on what's working. Try new things. Some of them will stick, some of them won't. Don't be afraid to try just because you know some of them aren't gonna stick. You know, that commitment piece, you know, another way to say it is this: if you've got a plan B, odds are it's going to be plan B that happens. Because plan A is going to be hard, right? Plan A, if we're shooting for the moon, it's going to be hard. So if we've got a plan B, many times what ends up happening is we default to plan B. I love asking that question in an interview. Hey, if we don't come together on this position, what do you plan on doing? I want to see that their plan is, whether it's with me or not, that they find that kind of role in my kind of organization. The kind of role we're talking about in my kind of organization that really is the opportunity for them. Really is the opportunity for them. If that makes sense. So we want to make sure that, you know, that they don't have this big plan B option, because the plan B option is probably what they're more likely to do, especially when things get hard inside my organization. Well, I'll go back to dental hygiene. Well, you know what? They're going to probably end up back at dental hygiene no matter what.
Right.
That makes sense? So again, today's section was the extra plus in leadership. And again, what I love about what John's laying out here is that with all the other things we talk about in leadership, attitude really is the piece that just throws it over the top, right? You can have all of the other things we've talked about, all of the pieces that we're going to talk about over our last couple of days together. Without the right attitude, more often than not, a leader is just lost. They're just lost because they're going to fail to attract the people and the energy and the commitment that anything big or significant requires. So I want you to, when we wrap up here in a minute, I just want you to look in the mirror. What's your attitude? How's it showing up? What are ways that it's really helping? When we're really honest, what are some ways that it holds back? I'll know for mine, I grew up a Yankee, right? We've got a very wonderful tradition of dry sense of humor and sarcasm. I know there's times where my sarcasm can come across as not having the attitude that I really do have. And that's something I need to watch, right? I need to make sure that my sarcasm doesn't become my attitude, right? I'm a big fan of humor. I'm a big fan of having fun. And my people need to know, the people I work with, the people I'm connected with, affiliated with, need to know that the attitude is, we're going to do this. We're going to get this done. This is going to happen. I hope you guys take a minute to do that over the next few hours. We'll be back again here tomorrow, same bad time, same bad channel. We only have 3 little sessions less. If you missed some of this, it will be recorded. Jen's going to record it for us. And I think that shows up on the Keller Williams New England YouTube channel if you want to check it out. Otherwise, we'll see you tomorrow at 1 o'clock. Take care, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. Bye-bye.
Bye.